Yeah, Sriju, it's on to you.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, welcome all, and this is the Certification Brigade Technical Committee meeting at June 20th. So here, first of all, I would like to share the news that Core TST has approved the switch verification test procedures. So in the last SEBA call, happened on Tuesday. So we got a few more votes from the Core TST members, and finally the test plan is approved. And thanks to all who worked with us in making it a success. And moving forward, the CCP, the next program which we will be doing is the OLT certification. And to begin the discussions, like to provide a base for starting the discussion points and as a place to capture all our comments, so that if someone joins at a later stage of the project, he should be able to get a lot of information from somewhere. So that's the whole reason why I created this document. So during the switch verification project, we had interested people coming in between. So there was a lot of gap in how the program was handled. In showing how the program was handled, and we had to repeat a lot of things few times. So I assume this is such a document like this should be very helpful for if anyone is joining in middle of the project or something like that. Yeah. So this is not. This is just a rough document. Just put up my ideas about how the program should be. And so feel free to add your points, make comments to the document so that it's tracked. And yeah, that's the whole idea.
Okay, so Sriju, sorry, this is Sean. So this document is a different document and specific for the OOT certification. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, great.
Again, it's not a test plan or anything. It's just for someone to get an introduction of what is being done, how it is being done, stuff like that. So once we finalize this, the test document, the test procedure document, and everything will be completely different. Which will be official later on. This is just for keeping the community members in sync. So that's the whole idea. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So, first of all, the certification program is always stitched to a certification domain. So domain defines what list of features are actually getting certified on a particular box or a VNF function or something like that. Like for the previous release for the switch test plan, the certification domain was SEBA 1.0, which means everything SEBA 1.0 demanded from the switch should be certified. So that's how we go with it. That's a definition of what a certification domain is. Now, selecting a certification domain for the OLT program. So I was reviewing the scope for the next SEBA releases. SEBA 2.0 is end of this month. So obviously, we won't be able to do anything by that time. And I feel like SEBA 3.0 will be an ideal candidate for us to target because of a few reasons. Like there are a lot of architectural changes happening in Volta with the coming of Volta 2.0 with a lot of Go-based containerized adapters and certain changes in the architecture between the iAdapter changes. And so I don't know the most of the technical details, but I know there's a significant change which will be the way forward, and it's better that we target 3.2 and get covered in that automatically. And right now, a lot of unlike the switch test cases, which was direct and it was not complex actually. But for the OLT, there will be a lot of requirements from FCAPs like statistics measurement, the bond statistics, stuff like that. So right now, the gap between the requirement and what is actually supported is huge. So we also assume there's a good chance. There will be the gap will be reduced once we move to SEBA 3.0, which is targeted for December 20 this year. Then I know there's an update on the BAL. The current BAL version is 2.6, which poses a lot of limitations, especially when coming to technology profile and speed profile. So that is going to be updated. So for all these reasons, I feel like SEBA 3.0 should be our target for the certification domain.
How about saying the minimum is a VOTA BAL 3.0? Because I think right now they already start talking about 3.1.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this is not. I mean, yes, we can provide a comment,
okay.
But I know the limitation is there with 2.6 and 3.0 and 3.1. So all those limitations should be fixed. So.
Right.
The baseline is whatever, since the certification brigade is following the SEBA releases closely, so whatever is covered in whatever is released as part of SEBA which should be the one we will also be targeting.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So so that's why I think it makes sense to go with the SEBA 3.0, and. So these are a few things which I had a concern, and I know like this will be there will be questions on how about if 3.0 stability. I mean, it's not good enough for running the test cases which the brigade develops. So that's a few questions which I thought might arise in the community. So I just capture it here and try to answer what we should do in such a case. So this was what I was mentioning earlier. If you feel like there are any concerns specific to this topic with respect to certification domain, please add. And if you have any comments on the existing one, please do comment. So the first thing is similar, like if SEBA 3.0 release is due to say the name doesn't support a few things, or it is not stable enough. Say we have a test case which does continuous reboot of the OLT or something of that sort. It's not because of the OLT the test case is failing, but because of a supporting component. What would we do? And so the best we can do is we can document it and remove that particular test case so that it's known.
You see, Sreju, this is the problem with me on the call, right? I'm going to make things very complicated for you.
That's a problem, and it's a good thing.
Let's say, for example, because one thing is, I think as a VOTA or SEBA, of course, the reference design right now or reference pod we have is Broadcom based.
Yeah.
But the Broadcom, I think the minimum requirement is not Broadcom; it's the OpenOT adapter, right? So,
yeah.
so potentially, if someone come with for example, CIG or other company using the FPGA based, as long as they work with the OpenOT adapter, then and as long as they can, I think we probably. Down the road, we need to think about be inclusive of those. Start with the device are using the OpenOT adapter, or the device they're using their open adapter themselves, but still can pass all the test cases, right?
Yeah. I have those points captured below under the device under question.
Okay.
Well, let's see.
For next time, you can just block me to join the call.
Sure. So again, like at this meeting, I mean, we are not looking for answers. We are looking for more questions and answers, because Volta OLT is very closely related to the developments in Volta, which I try to follow by participating in different brigades and everything. But I mean, we need a lot of technical expertise from people like you. Switch was comparatively easier. The switch fabric, switch test cases was comparatively easier compared to this. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you have any, I mean, we're not looking for answers. Like we are looking for more questions at this point of time. so that we don't get a blocking thing down the line when we move ahead with the program.
Okay.
Yeah, so this section should be interesting for you. So here I mentioned, like, I mean, based on my understanding, there can be adapters based upon the OCP standards, which is the open OLT adapter and the drivers, and also it can have the legacy or the vendor proprietary adapters and the drivers. So the base point is like as long as they are compatible, and the vendor has done due diligence in checking the integration between Volta, the Volta, which is released as part of SEBA 3.0, assuming SEBA 3.0 is our target. If it works well, it shouldn't affect the certification brigade.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the idea. Like, so I know those questions will come, so I try to capture what will be the OLT adapter, who will be responsible, stuff like that. So I captured a few things here.
Okay.
Like the adapter always comes as part of the SEBA release for the open OLT. The driver, I believe it fits Edge Core, comes with the white box. So I mean, it's from Edge Core. If someone else, then they have to provide the driver. And if it's a vendor proprietary like Nokia or CAG or something, which and they are not following the open OCP architecture, then it's completely their responsibility to to provide the certification labs with the drivers and the adapters.
Okay.
Yeah, and coming down to the dependency between. Right now, we use the AT&T Open OMCI standard for the communication between OLT and ONU. So technically, it shouldn't matter what ONT it's used as long as it's able to understand the OMCI messages. But I have a feeling like maybe a new workflow. So there are two possibilities which I felt. The new workflows could enable new MEs, managed entities on the existing Open OMCI, or maybe they will have their own OMCIs. Like I believe Verizon have their own version of the OMCI, and so I don't know. Like maybe you can comment more on that.
No, yeah, I think that is true. I think so. The Open CI framework is potentially you're going to have the set of ME is potentially is service provider dependent, right? Just like you said, the Verizon has a different set. I think Deutsche Telekom. I actually also asked them about what exactly their workflow, and then what will be the ME changes. So potentially they should provide some input. And then third Telecom, I don't know whether the multi-TCON related stuff would that create a different ME also. So yes. So I think, and the other thing is, at least on Volta as a project itself, we need to be able to adapt or change the flavor in any ways. But for the ONF, for the SEBA exemplar, if the service provider doesn't provide their workflow to the exemplar, then there's no reason, we will, because we don't know exactly what they want, so there's no reason we include that. But once the workflow is publicized and then submitted to the SEBA community, I think we should include that and then adapt to it. Okay.
Yeah, and again, like with respect to the certification brigade, I mean, we have to document all the I'm not sure, like OMCI, Open OMCI version, which is used in the testing and stuff like that. So as long as so there should, I mean, I believe from what you were telling, we should not have a hard-code requirement that the vendor should use this particular OMCI standard. It's up to the vendor. As long as it works with Volta, as long as it is able to configure the MEs required for the workflows they are going to test, what OMCI stack they use shouldn't matter for the brigade. Is that a correct, fair understanding?
Or as long as the framework can adapt to it, can be changes, right? So potentially, I think one of the SEBA certification, you actually load the workflow flavor, right? I think that's one of the when you turn up the, I think that one of the name function or XOS function is you change the workflow. So potentially, if that can trigger the OpenCI flavor to be adopted, I think that should be okay.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Similar is the case for Redfish APIs for getting the pawn metric statistics and publishing to finally publish it to Kafka. So I don't think we should have any hardcore versioning on this as well. So I don't have much information on that.
Right.
So it's again an open question.
Right. But again, so I think that's something, ONF, maybe the certification brigade, the scope we need to think about it is, do we want to be operator specific or just something comply with our reference framework, right?
Yeah.
I think that's maybe the brigade. I count this one as a brigade. We need to. What I'm saying is, because at the end, you will say, okay, this OOT is certified to has passed the test cases of the certification brigade, for example. And do we want to say has passed the certification based on AT&T's or based on which service providers, flavor? I don't know whether we want to go to that detail. So I'm debating in my head right now about what we want to achieve here is, it's community oriented or per subscriber oriented.
Okay.
I mean, is that per reference design versus per workflow? So I think maybe the brigade should come up with the sort of like a mission statement. What do we want to achieve, right?
Okay. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, that's.
I think the achievement sometimes is interoperability. So that interoperability can be another one. So I think we can list all these and then have right now I think we only have Michael from Delta. And I don't know Pranash. I don't know is
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So I think we do need and also other service providers input on that. I'm only speaking as a product owner of the Volta, and I think
Yeah, I understand. I documented it, so we'll put down for discussion.
Yeah, we saw that some script already commit to the core GitHub, and there's some different kind of workflow. You have the AT&T. I also see some other workflow.
Yeah, the telecom has something, and I think later on the entity will have different thing too.
Yeah. So you mean you're going to certify your OOT? Is have to pass all the service provider workflow, or just one, or choose one? There could be a question.
Right? Yeah. That's.
So potentially we can have a certification level differences or something,
Yeah, I'm not sure it will it's not a good idea to have multiple versions of the certificate. So yeah, let's debate on this. Let's put a discussion and hear from everyone what they think about it.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you. And so apart from these items like the adapter, driver, the Redfish APIs, OMCI, do you think any other soft components which might fall into this category?
Let's stay with this one right now, and then we'll have to let's see whether we can think about something, and then maybe other people what triggers,
Yep. So now going to test methodology and scope. Obviously, there is no interest in testing the pawn optics what Volta and SEBA demands of the OLT. And previously for the fabric switch test case development, so we followed an approach where we had a master spreadsheet. I mean, working on spreadsheet is easier to track and compare between different test cases, what is the difference and stuff like that. And also we used labels so that a particular test case might be good for say SEBA 1.0 or SEBA 2.0. And also if a particular test case is valid only for say AT&T profile, so we give an extra label like AT&T, something like that. So we have a spreadsheet, or maybe I can show it to you. So that makes it easier for the, I think it is this one, test. Yeah, so this is a document, the master document, which captures all the switch profile test cases. So the good thing is like this. This is good for yeah. Maybe I need to add the SEBA 1.0. So and if the same test case is good for SEBA 2.0, I mean we just add a new label. And this was only good for this. There was only AT&T profile, so we added an extra label. So that the reason why we did like this is in future, if you want to make a test plan or you have a test program dedicated for AT&T workflow, it's easy. Come here and search for the labels which has AT&T in it. So that's the approach we followed for the fabric switch test development. So we like to use this same thing. And once we have and then for the actual test document, we say, for example, for the SEBA 1.0 switch profile, we shortlisted all the test cases which had the label SEBA 1.0, created into the official SEBA 1.0 document, which went through the court TST last week and got approved. So that's how we, the brigade normally develops the test document and those test documents. So I think it's a good approach, and we will try to follow the same thing for OLT test development as well. Now, coming to the test flow, this is just a brief idea how the test cases will flow. This is again inheriting a lot of things from the switch profile. So the basic things, the prerequisites is the OLT OS and network OS and loading the driver. And I captured a few points like both should be provided by the vendor, and ACL won't attempt to build any OLT drivers. So if it is EdgeCore should provide the package which the ACL can install it, or we can come pre-built along with the OLT. And I believe in Volta 2.0, all the adapters will be containerized. So of course, the vendor has to provide a Docker container of the adapter which they want. And so those are the prerequisites. Then we move on to the functional test cases. Again, it's
Trigger?
Yep.
Do you have a test topology?
No, right now, no.
So I'm not sure that do we need to connect to the switch, or need to connect to ONU? Yeah.
If you ask, I mean, for that's what I was coming to that point. Like we kind of need the whole pod for testing the OLT. So the SEBA BOM will be the minimum requirement for it. If you ask what is the test topology, the thing is when we were working on the fabric switch, so that was kind of an independent entity where all it needs is open flow messages and all ONOS the FCAPs. I mean, for it just requested for 8 statistics from the switch, all which could have been done by direct open flow messages. So to make things easier for the switch test plan and verification, we use the OF test framework, which directly sends open flow messages, configures the switches, sends traffic, verifies the traffic, which uses a lot of things, which allowed the lot of test cases for the switch to be executed without the whole pod. I mean, later at a later stage, we put the replace the switch. We insert the switch into the pod and do the pod level testing. But for OLT, it's very much dependent on Volta. So we cannot do anything on the OLT without Volta, unless, I mean, you don't want to do the low level API calls. And if you have Volta, then it's better to have the whole pod in it. So that's why I recommend a whole SEBA pod for doing any test for the OLT program.
But for, you say the OLT, it could be an open OLT or could be a proprietary OLT,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So that means the vendors, they probably need to provide their driver on the Volta.
Yes. They if it is based upon the open standards, the open adapter is part of the SEBA release, which we can reuse. I mean, with respect to OLT, there are two parts. One is the adapter and one is the agent or the driver. So for open OLT, the adapter comes as part of the SEBA release. Only the driver or the agent, the vendor has to provide. But if it is a proprietary, yeah.
But the question is, see, today you say, and the vendor can provide their own driver.
Yes.
And then if they don't like to pass that certification, that means that they can adjust their driver to make it pass. And
okay.
Do you know what I mean? Today, if I cannot pass, I just do some change on my driver or do some modification and to make it pass. And who is the judge? Because then you can change for example, they give me the question, I can modify the question and I already know the answer. I can modify it and
But when you change the driver, you don't change the Volta, you don't change the ONOS, right? So I think the driver, the container of the adapter, the OLT adapter and ONU adapter, it is I think the requirement is they have to be open in some way. They have to be part of the repository or some way.
Okay.
So you can change the code, but you still it is still in the open source domain, right?
But okay. Another thing is you see
they may have to they may be able to change the driver on their device,
right.
And I think then that's a philosophical question now is I think whether the vendor can do that, but I think the answer is yes, the vendor can do that.
Okay.
As long as they're adapted, I think that it is a community discussion regarding to the scope on that one. But if they found out some problem and they did update on their driver, which is good, which means we are providing some servers they can pass and then support the traditional SEBA pod or something like that.
Okay. And right. I have another question, but because then you said for example the honors, the key change that, and today you want to pass that certification, then which version you should pass or interrupt with the honors?
That is also another question, right? We have so many different modules.
Right.
So we should have,
some official release, and this is I'm gonna use this version to certify the Volta, your OLT device. Then we have to get some fixed version. Otherwise, then every day then so many community vendors that commit the code, and they keep changing it, and sometimes broken. And how to make sure the vendor can run the test case successfully.
Yeah, before that, I mean, the vendor is never allowed to run any test case. The test cases should always be run on a certified lab by ONF. And if the vendor himself he's having a certified lab, he cannot certify his own product. And
but
with respect to,
some vendor they can to run the test case in advance before they submit to a certification lab.
They can pre-run their
device.
That's
the question, right?
Yeah, they
but
can.
For our domain, for your certification, like a guideline, you should tell the vendors, okay, today if I want to pass the SEBA 2.0, then what kind of version, release version, we should run those test case.
All right. Okay. So normally the basic the baseline rule which goes is whatever. So the certification brigade is always linked to a SEBA release. So the SEBA release specifies what versions of ONOS and what other versions of other adapters and everything should be used. So the baseline is that's what the ACL should be using to certify the product. Nothing else. I believe that captured in the policy and principles document. We have a link down, so we'll go through that. Okay. Yeah. And coming back to the first question you asked, whether the vendor can change their driver. So, I mean, are we thinking about a case where the vendor is doing some cunning fix to pass the test cases? Say, for example, we are polling for the packet counters or something. So, I mean, the vendor actually doesn't do that, and they are faking it. I mean, are we talking about some scenarios like that?
For example, some ORT is not like a traditional ORT.
Okay.
For example, like keep it micro plug.
Okay.
Their ORT just plug into the switch.
Yes.
They don't have a management of like a traditional management port.
Okay.
Then this kind of scenario is including the SEBA 2.0 or in our like
no, not yet. The TIPIT they have to update their adapter. I think that's what they're doing right now.
Right.
Right.
But but if they design their own, what kind of scenario can be passed? That's another question.
Yeah, I think the OOT type may play a role regarding to this certification.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I think the external OOT such as I think the Edge Core or the CIG or I think the Tel Lab, right, mm-hmm. and potentially maybe Nokia and Calyx. We have all those adapted before. So potentially those are probably they by themselves as in one category more, but the TIPIT definitely is, and TIPIT and also the NTTs, the micro plug, mini PON, that can be a different category.
Okay.
And then when we talk about mini PON, they don't support. I think the protocols the EPON, right? They're doing the EPON, so that will be something, right? But it will have the flavor. It will have correspondence of the technology profile. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so potentially those are the scope we need to consider, and then whether how do we partition it or how do we categorize it. I think that will be the consideration of this document too.
Wonderful. Yeah, I mean, it's good that we are talking about all this so that even if it is like if the timeline allows, we'll try to accommodate everything. Otherwise, the document or the official document need to clearly mention only the majority group of the OLTs, like which uses their open OLT hardware, something like that, is covered as part of this release. So, but this discussion is very, very interesting, so that we have that all scope cleared.
Treasure, I think I lost you for a little bit, but I think that maybe I think some of the discussion even I mentioned so maybe I think at least the initial release of this document maybe just focus on Broadcom based.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we can expand that use cases based on the chip, based on the form factor or things like that. Michael or Sujitra, what do you think?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, fine.
Right. Yep. So yeah, so just giving going ahead with that. So giving what all things will be covered in the functional cases is normally like workflow verification, subscriber provisioning and provisioning, the technology profile, speed profile verification and stuff. So then we go to the next section of operational cases where we do operations like OLT reboot, ONT reboot, flapping the cables, upgrade, downgrade of the drivers. I mean, this is not a whole list, but these are the type of test cases this section should capture. And then comes the major section of FCAPs. So I was referring to the AT&T FCAPs document, I think it was given by Michael Gasser sometime in previous year. And this is the link for that. So this is something which I believe is of high priority to be part of the OLT verification. I created a list of all the FCAPS requirements from the master AT&T document, which will influence or which requires OLT support. And I found, I mean, this is my classification. There are few requirements which are very direct on the OLT, like the OLT serial number, the port details, and stuff like that. And then there are few which are not directly on OLT, but it needs OLT support to make it happen, like getting any statistics from the ONT. You need the OLT to process the request from Volta or ONOS and convert into ONCI messages, get the output from ONT, read it, understand it, and through Redfish APIs or through gRPC mechanism, send it back to ONOS or Volta, and finally ending it up in Kafka. So this is a kind of flow which I understand. So even though there is these requirements, the requirement might be getting the status of ONT, which is a direct requirement on ONT, but you need OLT support to realize that. So such requirements, I am calling it as indirect requirements. So I mean, do you have any problems with? I mean, do you agree with the definition of direct and indirect? And also, do you think okay, we should do both direct and indirect requirements?
I think probably I'm leaning both direct and indirect. But again, they are something you require the OOT to be OOT and to be there to support OOT related stuff, right? No, I think let's have both to jot down both initially and request people to comment on that.
Yeah, sure. So this whole table captures all the OLT and ONT related FCAPS requirements. And I try to see whether the current SEBA supports it. So this table captures whether there is support already existing. And also the JIRA ticket associated with it, which is being worked upon by Scott's team and from Sterlite. So this captures all those details. And coming down. So the speed profile, and I added a few test cases. It's not like this is something which I thought of. I just added it here so everyone gets an idea what will be captured there.
Okay, Shriju, can you please go up?
Yep.
In that, the yes and no thing that you added for the SEBA support. So, Do we need all these for even for no? I mean, if you go up, because I know some of them are being tracked under the tickets, but there are few things which are not even
Yes, yes,
tracked, right?
yeah, yeah. So that's the that's the I mean, such confusion will happen. That's why I wanted this table here. Because let's say, I mean, again, we go with the base rule. So whatever is should be support targeted for SEBA 3.0, we also follow that.
Yeah, that is what I'm thinking. I'm like
Yeah,
closely inclined towards that.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know if others have any comments on that
yeah.
because we are
So
targeting.
yeah, we can add one more a column here, like targeted for 3.0, but
Yeah,
it will evolve slowly, right? I don't think I mean, right now SEBA has not put anything on 3.0. Right now,
exactly.
all we see is 2.0 and 2.0 later stage. I mean, I don't remember the keyword which is used,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Yeah. So that's why maybe we can add one more row here, one more
Yeah.
column here. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that makes sense because that way we can just extract whatever is supported.
Yeah. 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 That's the very idea. I mean, reason why I wanted this table here.
Okay.
So there are a lot of requirements, and I don't think we'll be having it all.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
And one suggestion, I'm wondering whether this huge table should be put in the appendix in the back.
Yep. Sure. I'll move it there. Yeah, that makes sense. Yes, and let's come down. So again, the same assumptions and concern section for this area.
Mm-hmm.
So first thing, like which we discussed, so I have it captured here so everyone can comment on it. And my feeling also, like, to make it complete, we should have both direct and indirect. And also, I foresee some use cases where the vendor um, demand the OLT to be tested with a particular ONT vendor. I'm not sure. There might be a reason. I could not think of any reason, but I somehow feel such a requirement can come from the OLT. So what do we do with that? So that's concern. And yeah, then there's a heavy. I mean, if you do the indirect test requirements, there's a heavy dependency on ONT. And the current assumption is the ONT which is being tested at ONF will be good enough because if when most of the work is done at ONF, if ONF cannot test it, I mean, we cannot test it either. So and I believe Alpha Network is primarily used at ONF for all these validations. So that's the best shot we have. If there is a question like which is the ONT to be chosen.
And the other thing, one thing is once we get this thing out there, right? OT certification, then potentially that will trigger other ONT vendor to want to be engaged with this testing test bed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I was about to say that as well. But to start,
Yeah.
I think, but to start with, we can just start saying that, okay, because alpha, anyway, we have that, and then
Mhm.
that's been tested. So for our ease of use, we can start with
Yeah.
alpha.
Yeah, that's the reason. Like since it is tested at ONF, that gives the best feature coverage and support guarantees.
Hmm.
Because
I think we need to ask Alpha Network to donate more money. They get free ride.
I know, that's true. And Iskratel as well.
at least Edge Core provide engineers, right? So.
and at our lab also we have alpha. So yeah, but that's not the reason. It's mostly because ONF uses it. So if there is some requirement, I mean, I'm sure that there will be heavy requirement on ONT to support the MEs, OMC, IMC MEs for supporting the workflows, and which will be initially identified by ONF, and which is most probably initially supported by Alpha Network. So that's the reason. Yep. Then, yeah, I mean, there's another comment like if you do the indirect cases, almost 90% of the ONT testing is also done. So it'll be easy for when we come up with an ONT test document. Then the thing is related to, yeah, again, the if my understanding is correct, it's the uh, uh, give me 1 minute. Let me send a message to him. Otherwise, he will keep calling. Yeah, sorry for that. Um, like the upstream speed profile and the bandwidth management is more on the ONT side. Like when the packets come from the RG, based upon the priority values or based upon the which to put on which gem port, and also the speed profiles, they are mostly property of the ONT. The downstream is, is more a property of the OLT. So I'm just kind of thinking like whether should we do both the upstream traffic verification and downstream, or just the downstream verification. So and it might be possible my understanding is wrong as well. So that's why I wanted to capture that. Then we move on to the scalability cases. I mean, some scenarios which should come under the scalability cases, like scale up to the maximum number of ONTs, connect ONTs to all the PON ports in the OLT, and then request simultaneous stats from all the ONTs, do power cycling of the ONTs at the same time to make sure OLT is handling it, and you trigger. I'm not sure how to what extent we can do it. Like using PONSIM, Scott developed a way you can simulate the alarms, but I'm not sure how we can do it for ONT. But I just wanted to capture here. Now, again, I would consider this as a low priority because getting, I mean, what number is good enough to do a scalability testing? I don't know. And whether we can have all these ONTs, so the physical ONTs, it's again another question. So I consider this as low priority or maybe out of scope for the moment.
Mhm.
And then the port level cases where, so this is, I mean, this I added because when we had our switch test plan, so we had a lot of test cases where, which was executed directly on the switch without the whole SEBA port, because all the switch needs is open flow. But with OLT, it is different because we, as we described before, like we need the whole port for doing any level of testing. So I believe that is automatically covered. So Sujitra, I mean, you are the master of the port level test cases. I mean, what do you think
Yeah, we should definitely add those.
you should
Like,
add? Okay.
yeah, we have like we have for the switch test cases with the pod level. The same
Mhm.
things can be covered for the OLT pod level as well.
Yeah. The idea is like when we test the workflows, which comes under the OLT functional test cases. So we actually are executing the pod level test cases. Like the current pod level test cases are on the workflows, right?
Right.
Verifying the workflows. So I
Right.
was thinking like it might be indirectly covered under the functional test case, and maybe whatever is missing, we can cover it here in that case.
Yeah, and so and again bringing back to the same discussion, because right now whatever pod level test cases we have is based on the AT&T workflow, right?
Yeah.
So then when we are certifying this, again the question arises whether we are certifying towards a workflow. Then maybe we
Yeah.
should, I thought that it's better we should bring up a discussion at the COD TST level and
Mm-hmm.
get some inputs from them,
Sure.
and then
Yep.
we can get the community inputs as well.
Yes. Yeah, that's I think the
Yeah,
point with raised. Yeah, we should raise to
right.
bigger group. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember when we were discussing about the brigade itself in the beginning, we were thinking that there will be a generic certification and then a
Yeah.
specific workflow driven certification as some level. But it depends whether we have to drive to each component, then that's like too much, right?
Yeah.
So I think definitely we need clarifications then.
Yes, yes. Agree. Yeah, the previous release was easy because there was only one workflow.
Yes.
Now it's complicated.
Yeah, true.
Hey, Shreju, I'm going to drop very quickly. One question. I think this is OOT certification brigade, right? And I did as OOT certification. I think we do need to define the scope clearly because sometimes people look at that. Are we talking about the performance of the OOT? For example, how fast the data rate can pump, or what's the optical level, the pound level reading, whether they conform with the ITU document like a 893 or something like that. So the other thing is like a broadband forum has OOT and ONT interoperability testing. And I'm curious because we have this OpenOMCI framework in there. So could that be sort of overlapping? I mean, touching that scope, which I think when people talk about OOT ONT interoperability, mostly based on the chassis-based legacy devices, and I think maybe in our community, if we can also include some of the OOT ONT interoperability based on the adapters, people bring their adapter and then now they interact with each other, right? That can be another scope of certain kind of the testing, or certification process. So I just want to bring this up to the table a little bit. So there could be a performance. Are we touching the performance layer of the certification?
Not right now.
Right. So and are we talking about interoperability kind of certification? So those are the stuff potentially will get attached to this. So just in case. And I think there are test plan available for the broadband forums interoperability testing. So do we want to refer to that as a reference in some degree? Maybe that's something we want to also talk about later within this scope. So just let you. I just throw a few things on your table, and I'm going to drop to attend a different call. But I think this is a good start, and then I think and the timing is good with me, so I'll try to join the call routinely. Is this every week or every other week?
It should be. I mean, based upon the requirement. I mean, agency we can change, but otherwise, Sujitra, let's keep it every other week at least, even if there is nothing.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sujitra. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
You guys can continue, but I need to drop. Bye.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Yeah, me too.
We have a couple more minutes. Yeah. So the last section is on the automation and scripting, on the tools to be used. Like which framework to be used, what is the best traffic generation and verification tools, because we will be verifying a technology profile and speed profiles and stuff like that. So I think that's the end of it. Yeah, I'll move the appendix section. I'll move the big table on the FCAPS to the appendix. So Michael, these are a few of the links where you can get the policy, procedure manual and everything.
Okay.
Yeah. So that will get clarified on what an ACL should be, who can do the testing, how the vendor should approach stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
probably we can make a note, for example, for the SEBA release. What's the release test script versions? For example, you are past the certification, and what kind of release version should be tested?
Yeah.
Otherwise,
I think this is part of the other document, but we will make sure that. Yeah, I'll make a note of it. Yes.
Yeah. Otherwise, then the vendor will can confuse which vendor, which the test script they can run in advance.
Yep. Agree to that. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think we have a few more seconds, almost 3. So yeah, please go through the document, put in all your concerns and comments on this document. And yeah, so I have a lot of points I will add to the as comments to the document, and also the main question of what is the scope with respect to workflows and interoperability. So I will send a mail to the bigger community on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Sujitra. Anything else from your side?
No, nothing else, Reju. It's good. Good
All right.
start.
Yeah, thank you. And I think, yep. So, yeah, see you. We will schedule for the next Thursday. Right?
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.